And get started. So everybody can hear me okay? Okay. Well, welcome. I feel really excited about this evening. I'm going to interrupt myself to shut off the bell that rings to tell me everyone's here. All right, I'm going to start over again. So appreciating all of you showing up for this amazing topic tonight. I'm super excited to get into this. And before I do, I'm going to introduce myself and let you know where you are, what land you joined. So my name is Michelle Yasuda, and I am the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. So these programs support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And our Big Leap Bridge classes are a place for us to come together and engage in Hendricks practices so we can build community while we discover, play, and learn together. So, feeling excited to be able to do that with all of you tonight. So I have a couple of logistics. The first one is that we have a network where we're all meeting up. It's kind of like a private Facebook, so no ads or anything, and it's just Hendricks. And you can join us there and hear about all our latest happenings, and also communicate. Katie Hendricks is on there, and you can ask questions and talk to the community. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for that. You'll find that there. So one other thing is, if you can go grab some paper and something to write with, you will find that useful for this class. So I'll just pause for a moment while you go and do that. Take
Some
that
are already
opportunity.
advanced. They already have it in hand.
They already have it in hand. They're very advanced. All right, awesome. Moving right along then. So what I want to do now is introduce our amazing speaker for tonight, our facilitator for tonight. And Dee, what I want to say, I want to appreciate you before I turn this call over to you. And when I was thinking about you, I thought that you are a person of amazing integrity. That's the first thing I thought of. And then I thought about your loving and kind and gentle heart, as well as your playful and joyful heart. So this amazing combination of joyful and soft and gentle. And I just admire you so much. And I see you as a master of the Hendricks work. And I really appreciate you being willing to be with us tonight and share what you have to share about agreements. So I'm going to just go ahead and turn the call over to you.
Thank you, Michelle. What a wonderful way to start. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to see some old friends that I haven't seen in a long time in person, and some new folks that I feel like by the end of the call, we're going to be good friends as well, to play together. I would like to begin. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to introduce myself. Sorry, Michelle. I have to keep myself on target. Before we jump in, as Michelle said, kind of introduce yourself. And let's see, if I check in, I have been a marriage and family therapist for over a clinical fellow for over 25 years. So I kind of bring that into the soup of Dee. I also have facilitated within the military bases around the nation for the, it's called a P4P, Provide for the Provider, which is bringing the Restoring Resourcefulness tools to a lot of our providers in the military. I am on the faculty for our Restoring Resourcefulness crew, which is embodying the Hendricks tools and taking them out and making them available to organizations and to individuals to really help embrace a lot of the things that are so given to us so wonderfully by the Hendricks. I also have this really strange job that some people see me and they know it, others don't, but I'll try to describe it. I'm called an executive presbyter, and it's such a strange term, but basically what it is I oversee about 100 churches, Presbyterian churches in the Kansas City, Missouri area, and about 2 hours out. I'm not a bishop. I can't edict things, but I do walk alongside of them and invite them into their best selves. And thank you, Michelle. When you say that, I tend to think of myself as a big explorer with a big heart. Um, I'm looking at my vision board for this year, and I found this quote. It said, "Your heart is at the center of everything you do," and I think that probably is accurate of me. So I want to begin with appreciation. First of Katie Hendricks. Katie has been incredibly generous of her work and this body of work that she has shared with several of us in many ways that I would say has transformed my life and invited me into a whole new way of living that has been engaging and also full of vibrancy and possibility. I want to appreciate Michelle. Michelle's doing our tech today. She organizes these. She does all the advertising around them. And so Michelle, thank you for all of your work around this as well. And I want to appreciate all of you. I'm looking, again, I'm seeing familiar faces that bring smiles to my face and also some new faces. And I love seeing you. I know there's a lot happening virtually these days. And I know it's hard to be on Zoom. And I appreciate you taking this hour of your time and to come and to be here. And so my invitation to you is, I wonder if you're willing to play tonight, just for 1 hour. And maybe you might be surprised into what you discover. So I wonder if you're willing to do that. And if you can indicate that in some way. Skip is saying no. Okay, well, and if you're not, but but some way that you're willing to join in and bring yourself here. Great. So I would invite us at this time. There's one of the churches I used to serve was in Denver, and I loved it because we always would talk about, let's move from arriving here to actually get here. And so that's my invitation of what we're going to do is just arrive here in this place. And to do that, I'm going to introduce a tool. Some of you may be very familiar. In fact, some of you could teach on this, but it's called matching. And it's where our internal experience matches our external expression, where there's a congruency between the two of them. So what we're feeling on the inside, others see on the outside. And if you'll play with me just for a bit with this, and some people sometimes close their eyes and some people can keep their eyes open, but just notice what's happening in your body right now. Just notice in getting here, where you rushed here and so you're kind of going, woo, are you scared? And so your belly's kind of tight. Maybe your head is racing through lots of notes like I am. I'm kind of thinking, okay, don't forget this, don't forget that. But just notice what is happening in your body right now. And do so with curiosity. There's no judgment. We're not going to try to change your experience. You're not doing it wrong. You're just noticing what is happening. And once you start to notice the sensations or what's happening internally, I would invite you to find a way non-verbally. So this doesn't involve talking. Non-verbally, find a way to express that. So it could be if your head's racing, you're kind of going, or if you're feeling, if you're feeling weighed down by what's outside, but find a way that you are expressing what is happening internally for you to others here on the screen. So I would invite you to try that on. And while you're doing it, maybe you're feeling kind of shy, so you're wanting to kind of hide a little bit. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it. And as you're doing it, you might check and see what others are doing. Because they may be doing something that you think, oh, that's the one I want. That's what it's okay. We call it friendly cannibalizing. You get to try on their experience to say, oh, that looks fun, or that looks like something I want to do. So just try it on. Like Rod seems to be way out there. And you can get up and move anytime during this time too. I'm not one of those that say you have to be in a certain position all night. So just try that on and try on others. And when you get to one that feels congruent for you, let's just do that all together. Like Dana's doing face flapping, and I love face flapping. So get to a place where your external expression is matching your internal experience. Yeah, great. So I appreciate you playing. And this is a piece that's vital to making agreements. You may think, well, this is kind of crazy, but it actually is a vital component because so much of agreements are congruency. They're congruency that what we say we're going to do, we do. And what we say we're not going to do, we don't do. And so if we don't know what it is that we're actually wanting to do, if we're not expressing that in a way that's congruent with our inner selves, it can cause a lot of jangles down the line and kind of be a little bit crazy. So that's why we play with matching. So anytime during tonight, if you start feeling like, okay, I'm feeling drained, go ahead and let yourself do that. Because I think the more and more we embrace what we're truly feeling and can express that, it helps. It's also the piece of, I laugh when I think about agreements, because have you ever had someone when you're saying, let's do this, and they're going, yes, I'm happy to do this. I cannot wait to do this. And if you notice what my head's doing is saying no, while their mouth is saying yes. And so our bodies really do inform us a lot about agreements. So you might ask, what are agreements? And again, I said, it's when you say what you're going to do, that you do it. Or if you say you're not going to do something, you don't do it. I appreciate Katie uses this statistic, and it's a little mind-boggling to me. But apparently, of agreements, when they've polled people, only 3% actually keep the agreements they make. 3%. And that seems like such a small percentage. The reality is, when we ask about agreements, they're around us all the time. We make them every day. We actually make them several times a day. But it's important when we make agreements that it's between yourself, and it can be with another individual. Like I can make an agreement with Linda, or it can be with a group. So I make agreements many times. If I meet with a group, I will make an agreement before we start the time together. And so agreements can go between just one-to-one, or they can be in a larger spectrum. You might ask, why are they important? Why even bother making agreements? And I put this in the emphasis of the whole time together is agreements are how we shape the container. And so if we're wanting to create a container in which we and others can create, we want that container to be solid. We want that container to feel safe. Sometimes we use that word, or that container to be reliable, that we're not having to worry about the structure of the container, that we can be able to co-create and do so with ease and with fluidity and synchronicity. If there's holes in the container, they're like energy leaks. And so what happens is, if you remember, there's that illustration of the little boy with the dike. Do y'all remember that? An old from when we were very young. And the little boy puts his finger in one hole in the dike. And then all of a sudden there's another. And now he's got another finger, and he's got his fingers and his toes, and he's trying to keep the holes from breaking. If we're spending, and if we have several agreements that are not functioning, if they're broken, those are all energy leaks in the container. And so all of our creativity, all of our energy goes out and toward either plugging those holes, so we're trying to maintain it, or it goes out and it loses the energetic quality of the creativity. And so that's why agreements are so important. It boosts our aliveness. It brings vitality to us. And I would say it really, for me, it's a loving action, is to create clear agreements with other people and with myself. Because then I don't have to spend so much time worrying about, oh, did I hurt their feelings? Oh, did I do this? You know, it's a piece of, oh, I said I was going to do this, and I did it. And if it's something that I made a clear agreement at the beginning, it's going to bring me a lot of joy in doing it, because I really checked in, and we're going to flow through how to make these. I checked in and I wanted to do it. If I did one of those kind of haphazard agreements where somebody said, Dee, will you do this? And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And I really didn't want to, or I did it because I wanted somebody not to have their feelings hurt, or I wanted to please them. In the long run, I'm going to either start resenting them, or I'm going to try to make myself I'm going to put that perfectionistic police officer on my back and say, I've got to do this because I said I was going to do that. Well, that's no fun for anybody, including the people I'm doing something for. So that's why it's real important when we're looking at creating a container for creating something new, we really give attention to our agreements. It boosts our aliveness. So what are agreements? Agreements are, again, anything that can happen between you and another person and how you communicate it. And I would invite you to put in the chat as you start thinking about agreements you made even today, or maybe agreements you've made, or, maybe you made an agreement to meet somebody for lunch, socially distant. But again, that would be another agreement. Or if they're wearing their mask, or maybe you made an agreement to, at work, I'm going to have this in by a certain time. Attendance at meetings, going to a meeting or participating. You made an agreement actually by signing up and registering to come to this tonight. That's an agreement. Sometimes I find agreements are around, okay, great. People are coming in. I'll make your favorite dinner tonight. Yes. Or you pick someone up at a specific time. Sometimes agreements are how we even talk with one another. Like when I'm working with a group, and I'll share an illustration later, we create agreements of how we want to be with each other. It's not to stifle, but it's how do we invite more conversation. Who's cleaning the cat box this month? I love it, Skip. That's an agreement. And it's everything like that. Who's going to clean the toilet? Oftentimes we have these agreements, and many times they're by default. We assume somebody else is going to do it or we're to do it. But once we can get really clean in those agreements, it's amazing to cultivate them. And then life frees up a lot easier. Ongoing open to feedback with husband. These are great. These are great agreements. I'm going to ask you a little question to see, because it's funny when I ask people other questions about this. I ask about traffic laws. What do you think about traffic laws? Are those agreements? And some of you are nodding. Yeah. It depends on the age of the group I'm talking to. Because if they're 20 and younger, they'll say, I didn't make those laws, and so I don't see why they apply to me. If they're 50 and over, they're like, yes, we all made these agreements. But the interesting thing is, they may not have been part of making the law itself. Like who decided that a red octagonal thing is a stop sign? And so you stop. We may not have been part of the original group that made that as a law, but what we did do is we took a test and we agreed, I will follow the laws that are there. That's my agreement for having my driver's license. Let's see. They're great when they suit me. Jennifer, I love it, because that's something we're going to talk about. Wearing a mask at work and staying safe, distant. Yep. Doing my taxes. Traffic laws are like curfews for teens. These are great. Also, I use agreements in when I do weddings these days. I let go of vows quite a few years ago. And it was because I think when we think of vows, try on what a vow feels like to you. I don't know about you. Every time I would talk with somebody about making vows, they would get real stiff. And it would be like, I'm making something that will forever in eternity be this way. And the reality is we're people who will interact and change, and our lives change. And a vow, it has the propensity to say, I'm going to say these things and I must follow them every single day, every single moment. And depending on if you're literal or not, that has an interpretational quality. But agreements are alive and they're interactive with the relationship to say, this is what I agree to at this time. And we may change it later on, or we may need to adapt it, or we may need to because we've changed. And so I would say agreements are included in our marriage and our connections with others. The one I love is people will say, I'll bring cookies. And that one seems to get everybody, they decide they're going to bring a dozen cookies, and forever and ever they're angry about bringing cookies because they really didn't want to. So let me see, let me double check here. Different cultures have different implicit rules. Absolutely, Alice. And I wonder, when we get to the later part, if you'll bring some of those up, because I think that's real important. Different cultures, different countries, and different families have different understandings of implicit agreements. I agree to pay for groceries, and it did not include death till death us part. Absolutely. So those are some of the pieces. I don't require people to obey their husbands their wives to obey their husbands anymore either. So, boy, that's some old things that we used to do. Yes, Skip, a lot of unspoken agreements that aren't actually agreements, they're expectations. And that clarity is what we need to do. That's what we need to build into understanding the agreements we make. And when we hit those jangles, to recognize them and say, okay, let's create a clear agreement around this. So we're not operating by default and then by either disappointment or expectation. So they're not rules. Rules actually require policing. They require a rule keeper, someone who's going to be the keeper of the rules. And in many ways, when we create those dynamics, we're turning over our power, because we're saying, I don't have the power within myself to keep my own agreement. I require someone else to monitor me and to tell me what's right or what's wrong, or to correct me. And we do that, again, sometimes very overtly, and other times it's very direct. Agreements are decisions and they're choices we make together. We recognize that we are whole human beings, and we can make agreements without requiring someone else to monitor us. And so before we go into agreements, it's absolutely essential we understand, how do I know if I want to make an agreement? How do I know if what they're asking me is exactly what I want to do? And so we're going to break into breakout rooms. And before you freak out, this is really easy. It's very fun. It's not going to be a lot required of you. So I'll give you the instructions here and ask questions, and then we'll break out. And it'll be for 15 minutes, but it will be a time for you to explore your yeses and your nos. So right now, with that paper that's by your side, I would invite you to write down a food you absolutely hate. And I mean hate. Like you kind of throw up in your mouth a little bit when you think about eating it. I mean, really get something that just makes you nauseous, and write that down. And then write down a food you love, you just love. That is the food your go-to to treat yourself when things are, that's your food that you feel like you are a celebrity when you get to eat it, because you love that food so much. And then the third is write down a food you haven't ever tried. Maybe you've heard about it, but you've never tried it before. Okay, so does everybody have those three? Kind of give me a wave or some kind of piece if you do, once you get them, so we can know. So a food you hate, a food you love, and a food you don't know. You really have no idea. Does anybody need help in their prompts for your food, or a food you haven't tried? Is anybody struggling with that? Yes, Beth, go ahead and unmute yourself. Uh-oh. Can we unmute? There we go.
Yeah, no, I'm just struggling. I can't think of a food I haven't tried. I'm sure there are plenty. I'm open to suggestions.
So what are some creative foods? And I would invite people to put them in the box, in the chat box, and we'll look, because I think we can process each other. Front raw, stinky tofu, escargot, rabbit, bugs, kangaroo, snake, offal. I don't know what an offal is. Offal? Offal? Elk, monkey brain. Wow.
I'm talking about food that doesn't make you want to throw up in your mouth.
Well, have you tried these? So that's the piece. Is anything that you might have ever tried or not? I'm just curious about. I would even say, oh, go ahead. Somebody else was chiming in. Okay. So it's just something that would be kind of unique. Caribou, duck eggs. Okay. So what we're going to do is you'll go into your groups of three. and immediately decide who's going to be the explorer. And the explorer, all you're going to do is we would invite you to either stand or find a way that you can keep kind of movement happening in your body. So if you're on a swapper, on a chair that you can move. And the reality is what this does is it keeps you from going into your head to think about what foods I'm supposed to like or what foods, but you're going to be in your body. So the explorer is going to say, you know, try that on. The food I really hate more than anything. And they're going to start noticing what are the signals your body tells you when you try on if I'm going to eat that food. Notice all the signals and sensations. Then the next question is, again, trying it with the food I love, and then trying it with a food I've never eaten or wanted or been curious about before. The second person, so that's the explorer. The second person is the facilitator. All you're going to do is ask them those questions. Just start off first with try it on. What food do you hate? What food do you hate? What food do you hate? Again, no judgment. You're just facilitating so they don't have to stop and read the question. What food do you hate? What food do you love? And then what food have you wanted to explore? The third person is who I call the IBM. They are the inviter of breath and movement. And so all that person does is just notice the two others. And if they're, because sometimes when we start doing this, people get scared and they stop and they freeze, they hold their breath and they quit moving. And if you're doing that, you're not able to really be in touch with what's happening in your body. So all that person does is notice and say, hey, y'all be sure to kind of keep moving and just breathe. Okay? You'll have 5 minutes. Each person will have 5 minutes. We'll send signals of when it's time to switch. Is everybody clear on that? And play, enjoy it. Because when you really try it on about a food you hate, let your body really signal to you, what does that feel like in my body? Okay? So Michelle, can you do your magic?
Yes, I'm going to do that. If you get in a room and somebody isn't playing, you can ask for help. If you're not planning on playing, don't accept the invitation to the breakout room. It's okay to stay in the main room, but we encourage you all to play. So here we go.
Welcome back, everybody. I think, is everybody here?
Yeah, everybody's here now.
And nobody got eaten or you know, even wrestled with having to try on their worst case scenario of food. The reason that was so important is because your body signals to you what you want and what you don't want. And so as you cultivate that, a sensitive awareness and listen to your body, it's amazing. Because your body will communicate with you. And we start with no all the time because no's are, particularly with food, no's are really emphatic. Our bodies will tell us, but what has happened over the years is we override that. We start, you know, we were told, go ahead and eat that because I made it, or there's starving children in China, so eat all your food, even if you don't like it. And right. Food is a real easy way to start really noticing, do I want this or do I not? The clear yeses and nos are vital to agreements because that helps you concern and discern what it is you want. I notice when I have a no, my belly constricts, my feet start dragging in the ground, almost like somebody's dragging me, you know, pushing me towards something. I work a lot with animals and I love it because animals are impeccably clear on their yeses and their nos. So if you have a dog or a cat or an animal, they will tell you what their yes and their no is, even though they can't communicate that. If you question that, go watch a National Geographic about a mama lion nursing her baby cubs. It'll look wonderfully like Disney and she's enjoying it. But when she gets tired, she just knocks those cubs away. And it's not a, oh, sweet one, I hope you're full and I hope everything's happy. It's a, I'm done. And that's when it's over. I believe animals can teach us as we watch them how clear they are because they don't go into all the thought processes that we do. For instance, I have a golden retriever named Winnie. Some of you know Winnie. And Winnie is impeccably clear in her yeses and her nos. When it comes to food, we nickname it crunchies. And so when it's time for crunchies, I'll come out and I'll say, it's crunchy time. And she does this whole dance and she prances around and she's so excited to eat her food. Now, if I am eating dinner and she comes along or I have leftovers from what I ate, and I either have a raw carrot or a cooked carrot, I may offer that to her. And she will, without even hesitation, she won't think, well, Mom, you cooked this, so I should eat it. She will take it in her mouth, and within seconds, she spits it out. She hates carrots. It's really clear she hates carrots. The other piece is a banana. So in the mornings, I eat bananas, particularly around COVID. I don't like the tail end of the banana. I'm kind of on that way, but I don't like that last little part of the banana. So I've gotten in a habit of I'll offer that to her. Sometimes she'll take it and eat it. Other times she spits it out. She does not want that banana. And I love it because, again, it's not the food. It's not a judgment about the food. That's her communicating her clear yeses and nos. You see, no is powerful because as we understand our no's, we can step fully into our yeses. I want us to do one quick experiment with our no's, because I believe we have stories about no, that we have to create a reason. We have to create a justification around a no. And, I have to say, I don't want to do this because I've got another engagement, or I don't want to do this because something else is pulling my attention away. And I really believe, and I'm going to say this, our discomfort with no is directly related to our capacity to create agreements and to keep them. Our discomfort with no's is directly related to our capacity to create agreements and keep them. So I'm going to invite y'all, if Michelle, can you unmute everybody? And we're going to just try this just for a couple of minutes. And I promise there's enough of y'all, nobody's gonna go, oh my gosh, did you hear that person? But I would invite you to try your no on and try it as soft as you want. So it could be no, or as loud, no. It could be no, 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 or it could be no. But everybody try your no's and try it in different paces and different voices and different sounds with your no's. So is everybody unmuted? Okay, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. No.
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 No way.
No.
No.
No way.
No. No.
Not interested.
Hey,
No, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That's great. So this is a way of playing with your no until your no becomes as common to you as it's dark outside or today is Tuesday. You want to be able to be comfortable with your no and how you express it without having to have that judgment. And when you say no, you create a pause. And that pause helps you then know and create. Maybe somebody asked you to go for a walk and you say no, and then pause. And that pause then lets you know, I do want to go for a walk with that person, but not right now. Or no, I don't want to go for a walk. I want to sit and be able to talk to them face to face. So in that no, you can get actually more clarity of what it is you want. I know that I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Is in the integrity deck, there are cards that I think some of you have these about agreements. And the piece is, and I want to read these to you and just try them on and just notice. Again, this is not an opportunity for you to criticize yourself. It's not an opportunity for you to figure out that you're doing it wrong. In fact, get super curious. So I'll read aloud and just kind of notice. I follow my body signals that let me know I don't want to make a particular agreement. Keep breathing. I recognize and use my whole body yes signals to choose which agreements I want to make. I make clear, direct requests that include a buy-win instead of airing generalized complaints. I recognize, appreciate, and celebrate my whole body aliveness when I keep agreements. And I change agreements that are not working by noticing the jangle, by communicating and listening to feelings involved, and by making new and clear agreements. I love these because they invite us into this kind of curiosity. And when I read those and I kind of notice that there's something that just feels a little fuzzy, I kind of go exploring and think, what is it that, say I'm in an agreement that I'm wanting to change, and maybe I'm not communicating and listening to what's involved with the feelings. So I can kind of get really curious with this. So how do you change conscious agreements that aren't working? Is that pushing pause and getting super curious. But before we go to changing, the making an agreement is very clear. It's very simple. It's breathe. So take a breath. Don't just say yes at everything, because that's when you get into the place of you said yes to everything and you really didn't want to do anything. So don't be unconscious about it. Just breathe. And always know it's easier to not make an agreement than it is to go back and change one. So notice in your body, what do I feel? Am I noticing those signals that tell me no? Don't make the agreement. Am I noticing signals that tell me yes? Make the agreement. And keep the ones I make. It's that easy. I do like Gay and Katie talk about, write down what your agreements are. So whether that's your calendar, whether that's agreements that you make. When I work with groups, we actually will write them on a page. It's to invite people. They say if you have a life that's any more exciting than a sheep herder, you need to keep your agreements and write them down so you can keep track of them. I think that applies to almost everybody. But it's a piece of recognizing, just honor them, just to be able to write it down and go, okay, I agreed to this. It's also a piece not to beat yourself up with it, because we're all human. There's going to be reasons we break an agreement or they need to be changed. Agreements are not about compromise, because if you compromise, what it basically is saying is you're giving up something you want, somebody else is giving up something they want, and then you're in the middle where nobody's really happy. Agreements really are you naming what it is you want, and they're naming what it is they want. And then through that, creating what you can create together. And I believe there's synergy in that happens. So you toss it back and forth until you land on what you want to do. When there is a group of people that I work with agreements, we begin by creating agreements to the container. So, I'll work with councils or things like that. I actually begin with agreements, and it's how we do our work together. I noticed one time they came up with an agreement. One person yelled out, "No cross talking." And so I got curious about it. Again, no judgment, but I said, "Can you say more about what that means for you?" And that person went on and explained. They said, "Well, I have a hearing issue. And if more than two people are talking, I can't hear." And interesting enough, somebody else who was also excited about cross-talking said, "Well, I want to be seen and heard when I do talk. So I just don't want someone interrupting me." So we explored what that meant to everybody. And again, it wasn't either of those where we landed. We ended up landing that before, when somebody's speaking, that the next person who wants to speak will check in, "Are you complete?" with the person who spoke last. And they get to say, "Yes, I'm done." And so it was an easy agreement and it worked great. But it's very important that you're not doing agreements so that you become the police. The agreements are so that no one has to be the police. We're actually responsible for ourselves. And when you want to change the agreement, when you realize it's not working, somehow I said yes, but it's not working anymore, just get super curious. Notice I call them the rumble strip on the side of the road. It's kind of when things start getting a little bit wobbly. Those are early warnings. When you start getting resentful, that's when it really gets, And so changing the agreement, just go to them, share your experience without blaming. And you might add in, "Oh, this reminds me of," but again, your intent is to work this out with this other person so that you're real clear what you want, they're real clear what they want. And then clean it up, make it to what you want it to be. And it may be this agreement isn't working anymore, so our agreement is to end the agreement. I want to try this on really quick. I know we only have 4 minutes left. But I had asked Michelle to model this with me so that we could have and we didn't rehearse it. What I told Michelle was to do this demo with me is and all I told her is we have a standing meeting at 9 a.m. every Monday. And consistently, I forget to send out the reminder, and she consistently shows up late. And so I wonder if for a couple of minutes, Michelle, if we could demo that just to show, okay, how easy it really can be is, wow, Michelle, I just noticed, and I own, we have this meeting at 9, we've had it scheduled every single week, and I notice I keep forgetting to send out the reminder. And I notice I feel guilty about it. I want to apologize. I want to have all these reasons, but the reality is I just don't send it out. And I'm noticing and wondering if this is working for you as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because what I noticed is that I am relying on you to remind me. Like I'm noticing now, I was like, I didn't really put it in my calendar. I've been, I'm feeling like that is not working for me because you're not sending it. I'm not putting it in my calendar. And I'm wondering if we could come up with a better way for this to work.
I would love that. Because I notice I don't want to remind you.
That's what I'm realizing.
I'm noticing I don't want to. And so how can this work for us? Because maybe it's not 9. Maybe we schedule our meeting at 9:15. I mean, maybe that's the route we go is fine. I don't know.
Yeah. But I actually think that would be helpful, because I think I said yes to 9, but really 9:15 works better for me. And maybe that's part of why I haven't taken full responsibility for showing up on time.
Well,
and
I haven't taken responsibility to send out the reminders. So yay. So let's plan. We'll meet at 9:15 from now on, and no reminders.
We'll
remind ourselves. Okay.
Yes.
Yay. So friends, I know we're at the 2-minute mark. There's a lot of content, some exercises. Hopefully this has been insightful. I do believe once you start paying attention to your body and your agreements, that eases up the creativity. I see Elizabeth has her hand up.
I do. I just wanted to say I would love to change agreements with either of you ladies anytime. So I just wanted to put that out there. That was just so beautifully communicated, and I thought, wow, if so many people I've communicated with had that kind of exchange. So keep me in mind for future renegotiating things.
Well, and Elizabeth, you raise a great point. I've actually gone places that someone on the other end is not, they're wanting to blame, they're wanting to go down a guilt thing. And
correct. I think that's most people. I think that's most people. At least I would love to see that changing in my life. And now that I'm here with you guys, this wonderful community of people, I hope to meet and inspire more creative ways of, reorganizing agreements and this type of communicating. So,
well, and
thank you.
Even if they don't, I can still change the agreement and say, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. And I want us to end this agreement, and they can have all the feelings they want. And so it's not dependent on the other person. It really is a lot just what I want to create. Yeah. Anybody else? I know we're at the hour. I so love seeing y'all. This has been fun. I hope you have fun playing in your groups. Maybe some people are going to eat some new foods. I don't know. I saw some of those in the chat, and I'm not going to eat any of those. I can tell you. Rod, you were so bad. Oh, thank y'all.
Thank you. I just want to say, Dee, thank you so much. This class, you packed in so much important information. I want to let everyone know this recording will be up on the site. I can't say exactly when, but if you join our Big Leap Home Network, you will see when it gets posted, because we post things there. And Dee, thank you so much. What an amazing, amazing class. And if anybody has any questions, I can stay on the call for about 5 minutes afterwards. So if you have any questions, feel free to do that. And I don't know, Dee, if you're around.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. If you want to unmute and say goodbye, this would be the time to do it.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was so fun. Thank you. That was
Bye.
great job.
This is what I need to learn, what I needed to learn. Thank you.
Hey.